You ever feel like your smartphone is ruling your life? What if I told you there's a biblically inspired way to break free from that digital chaos? Well, stay tuned to learn about the power of what I'm calling a digital Sabbath. Can you imagine a day of true rest? No notifications, no endless scrolling, just you, your loved ones, and God. Sounds impossible, right? Well, it's not only possible, but it could be the key to revitalizing your faith and your finances. Join me today to help you take back your life from your devices. Before we dive in, let's take a quick look back at yesterday's show where we tackled the question, should I play the bank bonus game? That was a fun episode, and I'll encourage you to check it out. If you missed it, don't worry, you can find all our episodes at AskRalph.com. Well, now let's get to today's burning question. This comes from Juliet in Atlanta. This is what she tells us.
Hey, Ralph. I listen to your show daily when I'm driving to work, and I was thinking the other day that maybe you could help me. I'm a small business owner and a devoted Christian, but I'm finding it increasingly difficult to disconnect from my devices. It's affecting my relationship with God, my family, and even my business decisions. I've heard about this concept of a digital Sabbath, but I'm not sure what it entails or if it's even practical in today's world. Can you explain what a digital Sabbath is, why I should consider it, and how to implement it effectively? I feel like I've got an addiction, and I am really not sure how to cure it. Please share some wisdom if you have any for me. Thanks.
Welcome to the Ask Ralph Show, my friends, where we're mastering finances from a Christian perspective. I'm your host, Ralph, and I'm thrilled you've joined us for another Technology Tuesday. We're tackling a tough question, and that's more relevant than ever in our hyper-connected world. My goal today is to help you disconnect from the digital world and regain control of your life. Before we dive into Juliet's question, let's turn to the Word of God for guidance. In the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verses 8 to 10, we read this. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. Now you might be thinking, Ralph, what does that have to do with my smartphone? Well, folks, more than you might think. No, I haven't lost my mind. Let me break it down for you today. Juliet, thank you for your thoughtful question. I'm sure many of our listeners can relate to feeling overwhelmed by the constant ping of notifications and the pressure to always be on. I know there are some days when it's overwhelming for me, and trust me, I love technology. So let's explore the concept of a digital Sabbath and how it can benefit not just your faith, but also your finances and, more importantly, your overall well-being. Well, let's start with a simple question. What in the world is a digital Sabbath? Well, simply put, a digital Sabbath is a designated period, typically 24 hours, where you intentionally unplug from your digital devices and online activities. It's truly a modern-day interpretation of the biblical concept of Sabbath, which was a day of rest and spiritual renewal. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, Ralph, are you saying I should go back to the Stone Age once a week? No. That's not what I'm saying at all. The goal isn't to reject technology altogether, but to create a healthy balance and regain control over our digital lives. It's all about balance, my friends. So let's answer the next logical question, and that's why should I consider a digital Sabbath? First of all, it can be for spiritual renewal. Just as God rested on the seventh day of creation, we too need time to rest and reconnect with our Creator. Constant digital noise can drown out the still, small voice of God. I feel this in my own life with the constant notifications, those constant pings, those alerts, and so on. They start to feel like all I do all day long is fight fires. There has to be more to life than this. Another reason to consider a digital Sabbath is your mental health. Studies have shown that excessive screen time can lead to increased stress, can lead to increased anxiety, and even depression. A digital detox can help reset your mind and reduce those negative effects. I know personally there are days that I want to take my phone and throw it through the wall or throw it over here in the pond on the farm. I bet you felt the same way at times. Yet another reason for a digital Sabbath is working on improved relationships. Think about this for a second. How many times have you been physically present but mentally absent due to your smartphone? I've been there. A digital Sabbath allows you to be fully present with your loved ones. This is one of the things I've battled for years. I found myself out to eat with my wife and looking down at my phone, and honestly, she does the same thing. It's not helping me build effective relationships, and it's not helping you either. I feel we're in this digital age where we're so connected electronically, but virtually unconnected personally. And it's a tragedy. It's so sad to see. Look, I'm guilty of it too. A digital Sabbath could lead to enhanced productivity. That's just a fact. Contrary to what you might think, taking regular breaks from technology can actually boost your productivity. It allows your brain to rest and recharge, leading to better focus and creativity when you return to work. I liken it to that short walk I take away from my desk several times a day, or simply taking a moment to reflect on how much God has blessed me. He's blessed you too. And finally, a digital Sabbath may just lead to some financial benefits. Yes, you heard me right. A digital Sabbath can help impact your finances. So now you're going to ask, Ralph, how is that possible? Well, think about it. How many times have you made an impulsive purchase because of a targeted ad on social media? Or maybe you subscribe to a service you don't really need because of a well-timed email. Taking a break from these constant marketing messages can lead to more mindful spending and perhaps less waste. So now let's tackle the hard part. Ralph, how do I implement a digital Sabbath? Now, I know that some of you small business owners might be thinking, Ralph, I can't just disappear for 24 hours. What about my customers? I hear you. I've been there. But trust me, with some planning, it's not only possible, but it's incredibly rewarding. I remember not too long after I started my own practice, it was an early Saturday morning, and one of my clients actually called me to ask a tax question. I can still remember my wife saying, Ralph, there are no accounting emergencies. But let's get back to the plans. So here are some steps you can take to get started. Number one, choose your time. This is the time to select a 24-hour period that works for you. Traditionally, this would be from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, but the specific time is less important than making sure you do it consistently. Number two, you got to prepare for this in advance. Inform your clients, inform your colleagues, and inform your loved ones about your digital Sabbath. Set up those autoresponders for your email and voicemail explaining you'll respond within 24 to 48 hours. This is the key. You got to prepare those people. Usually are, used to hearing from you right away so they don't panic and you can rest assured not worrying about missing any alerts. Number three, you got to plan some offline activities. This is a time to fill your Sabbath with meaningful offline activities. This would include family time, maybe nature walks, reading physical books, or engaging in your favorite hobbies. This is a time to be creative and use this time to really recharge. Number four, this one is vitally important. You got to create some physical boundaries. Put your devices in a drawer, a specific room, turn them off, make them out of sight, get them out of mind. Trust me, if you don't do this, you're going to be tempted when that thing starts to go off. Number five, and this is very important as well, you got to start small. If 24 hours seem daunting, start with just a few hours and gradually increase the duration. Maybe start with just a few hours and work your way up from there. And number six, be gracious to yourself. If you slip up, don't beat yourself up. This is a practice, and like any new habit, it takes time to develop it. It's not going to happen overnight. So let's talk about where the rubber meets the road. What can you expect to gain from this digital Sabbath? Juliet and all of our listeners out there, let me tell you from personal experience. Implementing a digital Sabbath has been transformative for my faith. It's transformed my relationships, and yes, it's even transformed my finances. When I first started this practice, I was skeptical. How was I supposed to run my business if I wasn't available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? But you know what? The world didn't end. In fact, my business thrived. I quickly discovered that there really are no accounting emergencies. And my wife was absolutely right. And so long as I was available during what I call normal business hours, I wouldn't be letting my clients down. I also found that by taking this intentional break, I returned to work more focused. I returned more creative and more in tune with God's guidance for my life and business. I found myself making better decisions because I wasn't constantly reacting to the latest email or social media post. See, folks, the truth is, when we live our lives reactionary, it's not very effective. My relationships improved too. My wife actually joked that she had gotten her husband back. Now, I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. We started having real conversations over dinner instead of both of us scrolling through our phones. It's sad when I go out to dinner with somebody or with my wife and I look at table to table, people got their faces down in their smartphones. They're not communicating. They're not talking to each other. They're losing those relationships. And here's something that might surprise you. My impulse spending went down as well. Without the constant bombardment of ads and limited time offers, I found myself making more intentional purchasing decisions. But perhaps the most significant gain was in my spiritual life. That time of quiet and disconnection allowed me to hear God's voice more clearly. I rediscovered the joy of uninterrupted prayer and Bible study. Now listen, I'm not saying it was easy at first. Those first few digital Sabbaths were tough. I felt antsy, kept reaching for my phone out of habit, but over time, I began to look forward to this day of rest and renewal. So here are some actionable steps you can take right now to practice a digital Sabbath for yourself. First thing is, start this week. Choose a day for your digital Sabbath. Choose a specific time if you don't feel comfortable taking an entire day. The second thing you've got to do is prepare your environment. Remove temptations by putting devices out of sight, turning them off, making sure they're not accessible. As we talked about before, number 3, plan enjoyable offline activities. Maybe dust off that board game or start the book you've been meaning to read. Fourth thing, reflect on the experience. This is a great time to keep a journal on how you feel before, during, and after your digital Sabbath. You'll learn from that. You can go back and read about when you first started it and what you learned from that. And number 5, this is a time to gradually increase the duration. Maybe you start with just a few hours, but aim to extend that each week. Maybe you get to a whole day. Remember this, the goal isn't perfection. You're never going to get perfection. But the goal is progress. Each step you take towards implementing a digital Sabbath is a step towards a more balanced, God-centered life. And that is the goal. It's a more balanced, God-centered life. Well, let's take a few minutes to recap what we've covered. Today we explored the concept of a digital Sabbath. That's that modern interpretation of the biblical day of rest. We discussed why it's beneficial not just for your faith, also for your mental health, for your relationships, for your productivity, and even your finances. We provided practical steps on how to implement a digital Sabbath and what you can expect to gain from this practice. As we wrap up, I want to remind you that tomorrow's show will be tackling another exciting topic. And that's this: what are 10 expenses I can drop immediately and won't even miss? Trust me, you don't want to miss that one. Got some really great ideas about how you can start saving money right away. If today's episode has sparked your interest, I encourage you to visit our website. That's at AskRalph.com, and I want you to join our community and share this episode with others who might benefit from learning about digital Sabbaths. And here's a special treat. When you join our email list, you'll get a free copy of my book, Mastering Your Finances. That's right. It sells for $10 on Amazon. You can get it absolutely free just by joining our community. And remember this, we love hearing from you. Send in your questions for the show. After all, answering your questions is what the Ask Ralph show is all about. Truly, friends, my passion is to help you find financial freedom with a purpose and live out your Christian faith, achieving your goals. So as we close, I want to leave you with this thought. In our digital age, sometimes the most radical act of faith is simply to be still, to disconnect from the noise of the world and reconnect with the source of all wisdom and peace. So until next time, stay financially savvy and may God bless you abundantly. This is Ralph signing off, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us on the Ask Ralph podcast. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. And remember, financial issues don't have to be complicated. Just ask Ralph. The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media, Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.